Hi everyone, my name is Chris Mutuma from eKitch Programming. In this video, we will look at JavaScript objects, whereby we are going to look at these parts you're seeing here on your screen, creating JavaScript objects using object literals, accessing object properties, adding new property, and deleting properties from an object. I did a video on JavaScript data types where we saw different data types in JavaScript. We have primitive, or what we call value types. We also have reference types. Now, examples of primitive types are the likes of string, we have number, we have boolean, we have null, and we have undefined. Now, the reference types are now where object falls in. So guys, you need to know that JavaScript objects are JavaScript data types as well. So we are going to see that as we proceed with this tutorial today. So guys, as you can see on your screen, my screen here, I have my Visual Studio Code text editor open, and I'm running the live server. Now guys, here I have two files. I have the index.html, that everything that you're seeing here on this browser is what is on this HTML file. So guys, I have linked my script before the closing body tag. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to go to my main.js. I'll collapse this. All right. So the first thing that we are going to look at is creating JavaScript objects. But I want you to note that there are different ways to create a JavaScript object. Number one, using an object literal. Number two, using the keyword new. Number three, defining an object constructor. And number four, creating an object using object.create method. But in this video, we are going to look at using an object literal. So I'm going to do a comment right there, then do creating JavaScript object. JavaScript objects, and then object called object literal. All right. So an object literal is where you define both. That is, you using an object literal, you both define and create an object in one statement. All right. So let's create this, and that's what I want you to know that, guys. It is a common practice for you to declare an object with the const keyword. So we looked at again the keywords in a video that I'm going to put on the description on this video, whereby you can use the var keyword, the let, and the const. And we talked of the var keyword being the old way of declaring variables, and the let and const, which came with ECMAScript 2015, which is commonly known as ES6. So on this one now, we are going to create a JavaScript object. As you said, an object literal. You both define and create an object in one statement. So how do we go about it? So I'm going to use my const keyword here. Then I'm going to create a variable person, or rather object person, and then the assignment operator, and then we are going to use curly braces. So now inside this curly braces, let me terminate this statement with a semicolon. Now inside this object person, we are going to create properties. So a JavaScript object contains properties that have their corresponding values. So how do we write these properties in JavaScript? Now we have this object person. This is an object. So what are properties of person? So the first thing we can do is get the first name, and here we are going to use a colon. All right. use a colon, and then I'm going to use the double, or rather the quotation marks. I'm going to use single quotes as usual. This is what I prefer, and as I said again, I'll stress quotation marks are as a preference. So you can use double quotation marks or single quotation marks. Both they will work fine. So then I'm going to give this object person the first name property a value of James. Then I'll separate that with a comma, create another property last name, use our colon again, use my quotation marks, and now type this last name as well. Then I use a comma again, type age, again use that colon, type 40. Then I'll come back and then maybe do bank, all right, and then use my quotation marks and type CT. So guys, you can see first name is separated from the value by use of a colon. So this is different from when we are creating a variable. Normally we do let let first name equals to, then we just say James, all right, then you terminate that. Now the good thing with object is they contain properties. They can contain a lot of properties, all right, unlike this way of declaring a variable where you're using primitive data type. You can see this string, you just do it on one statement, but on this one we have declared these properties, this object person, with as many properties as it can hold. Okay, so now let me come back here. So this is one way of declaring or rather of creating a JavaScript object through the use of object retro. So also you need to note that object retros, they do not they don't mean that you have to put them on the same line. So we can declare the same person again. Let me call persons so that we don't get the error of variable already defined. So here we are going to enter and create some break here. So then I'm just going to type my first name. Now on this the difference of using this, there's no difference. So you have to make sure that you use the colon again. All right. So let's use even myself here as a case study here. Then here again, I use my comma. Then I do my last name as well. And then I call myself Chuma. And then, guys, I'm not going to put my age. No, don't want you guys. I'm not that old. Not old, guys. I'm a young man. So here I'm just going to put maybe 34. And then my bank, rather than necessarily, I'm not going to put a bank. So guys, you can see here, I just remove that last comma to make sure that now we terminate again our statement using a semicolon. So you can do both. You can either declare your object this way and put the properties on the same line, or create a line break for them. All right. So let's see. Okay, let's go back to our browser. First of all, we are going to do open the console. So guys, right click inside your browser and go to inspect. And when you go to inspect, the first tab is elements. Go to the console element. So here, guys, I want us to do some console. We need to log this so that we can see how this will be displayed. So let's log person. All right. Then we save. Now, guys, you can see here we have our person object with the first name James, last name West, age 40, bank city. Let me copy this. Let me do the same here. Let's get persons. Then save. You can see we have the first name Chris, last name Mutuma, and age of 34. So if you expand this by clicking on that, guys, you can see this is an object, all right? And then you can see every property and its value inside that object. Okay, so guys, that is that is now the two ways we can be able to to create this JavaScript object. But that's not all, guys. We can as well create an empty object and then add properties. How do we do that? Okay, let's come here. Creating empty property. So on this one, guys, we are going to create empty object is an object. So on this one, we are going to create an object. Let's call it maybe empty, and equal sign, and then our braces, curly braces, and then we leave it empty. Now we need to add these properties and their values to this empty object. How do we do that? We are going to use that is the object name, which is empty. Then we are going to use dot notation, and then we are going to use the assignment operator, and then we are going to use a string or a number to add properties to this object. So let's come here and take the first one, empty, which is this name of our object. Dot. Now what do we want to add? We want to add first name. All right, then give it an equals, and then we do a string here. We say maybe someone like matching. All right, then here we don't use commas because already this is a statement by its own. All right, so we've terminated that statement using the semicolon. Then we are going to do the next one, empty dot last name, which is equals to maybe let's say Martin James. Then we can do another one, empty dot age, and we do do age of maybe 50. All right, so guys, if we console log this, console log this empty, you'll see that everything here that we have used the object name, and then now dot notation, and then the property names and the values will be they will create an object like this part here. All right, so you can see, so you can create an object in that manner as well. So guys, the next thing that we are going to look at, I hope that's clear. The next thing that we are going to look at is accessing object properties. And what do we mean by accessing object properties? Let's say, for example, the first object here, we want to access the bank property. How do we go about it? All right, so our first object, which is person, all right, so we want to access the bank property and console log it on our console here. So how do we go about that? So here it's just simple. We are going to do console.log, and then inside the console.log, we are going to use the object name, which is person, then dot notation again, and then we do our bank, just like that. Terminate that statement and save that, and you can see, guys, we are able to access this bank property here through by use of the object name, which is person, is here, and the property name, and you use dot notation. that is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is the same console log, and then we use the same person, but this time you're not going to use the dot notation. This time you are going to use the square brackets, and we use the quotation marks, and we will type back. So if you save that, you can see again we are getting city. Let me just comment this out so that we can be able now to, yes, so you can see now this also is another way of accessing our property, our object properties. All right, so there's also another way, which is by use of an expression, which are not covered on this video. So the next thing, guys, is adding a property, adding new property. So if we can be able to access our property by use of the object name, the dot notation, and the property name, all by use of the object name again, and inside the square brackets we do quotation marks and type the property name. How can we add a new property to our to our object? So we are going to take the second object persons, and we are going to add nationality. All right, so I'm going to do this persons, because the object name is persons. Now this is the way it's done. We are going to use the dot notation here. Okay, then I'll type the name of the property, the property name, and then assign that property a value of, let's say, Canada. All right, now Canadian. We save that, guys. Need to console log this. Let me see if we are doing it correctly. All right, yeah, it's the object name, which is persons. Make sure that it is correctly written. Then here we are going to do a console log and do persons again. So let's see if now this is the first. This is how it was before, though again also it has already included it. But I wanted to have a fresh results here so that we can see it correctly. So you can see it has already added this property nationality with the value Canadian. Alright, guys, so that is simple as that. Now we are going to look now at if you can add, definitely you can delete. So let's do deleting properties. And now on this one, we are going to use a delete keyword to delete a property from an object. So for this one, guys, we are going to take our empty property, our empty object here, and delete the edge from our empty object. So how do we do that? So we are going to come here and use the delete keyword in lowercase. Delete is the delete keyword is in lowercase. I'll keep stressing this, guys. JavaScript is case sensitive, and anything that you give this, if you type it in capital letters, that won't work. Or rather, if you use title case, whereby the first letter is in uppercase, that would work. So it is delete. Then we want the object name is empty. Then the property name is edge. Then we have console log, that is edge. Sorry, that is empty. Alright, that is now the object name. So let me just collapse this first. Then let's save. So if we come here, guys, we did this part here because this is the empty. We did it here, and you can see the edge is gone now. We have removed it, but initially you can see the edge is there. So you cannot use this edge property unless you re-add that. All right, guys. So this is pretty simple, and I hope you're following. And we can now do again the same delete by use of a square bracket, the same way we did here. All right. So let's, for example, delete now from person. From person, let's delete the bank. So we are going to do delete, and then person dot bank. Is now there. The square brackets inside the quotation marks, we do bank. Then we can console dot log, that is person. Right, terminate that. Then we can save that. So if we come to our first results here, you can see now the bank is gone. The city bank is gone. All right. So if you open it, you're going to see that now there is no bank here. Okay. So guys, basically that's what I had prepared for you. That is creating JavaScript object using an object return, accessing um, our object properties through the various ways, use of dot notation and use of the square brackets, and then adding a new property by use of the object name dot notation again here with the nationality, the one that we've added a nationality here. So basically that's it, and I believe this will help you to understand JavaScript objects. And basically, guys, if you understand JavaScript objects, you will understand JavaScript generally. All right. So thank you for watching. And before we go, let me do something here so that guys we can see. Let me do something here. So what I want to do here is I want us to look at the type of, so that we can see the type of our data type. All right. So I'm going to create a new variable and call it typ, and then do type of, then person. Okay, and terminate that. Then I want to also log typ. So what this means is we want to see the type of this object. So it is supposed to give us object. All right, and that's what we are getting here. So guys, data type object. So the next thing we are going to look at in the next video is JavaScript objects methods. All right. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.